Counselor Zix stared at the holographic display with 4 of his 6 eyes, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light. The recording showed the last moments of humanity on the galactic stage. 50 years had passed since that day, but the memory haunted the council still. In the recording, human ambassador Frank Miller stood before the Galactic Council. He was a tall man with graying hair and steady eyes that seemed to look through rather than at the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. "We choose to leave," Frank said in the recording, "not because we must, but because we can. The stars beyond your charts call to us." His voice didn't waver, no hint of doubt or fear, just certainty. Zix paused the recording and sighed, a whistling sound through his breathing slits. The council had laughed then. Humans were young among the stars, barely 3 centuries into spaceflight. Their claims of discovering technology beyond council understanding seemed like typical human boasting. No one was laughing now. The counselor resumed playback, watching as the human delegation simply turned and walked away. The council chambers erupted in angry shouts and threats. Trade sanctions, military blockades, scientific isolation. The humans never responded. They simply left. Zix switched to another recording. This one from Earth, the human homeworld, taken 49 years ago. Lisa Ward, a scientist from their NASA organization, stood before detection equipment. Her face showed excitement mixed with disbelief. "The signals are coming from beyond the Oort cloud," she explained to someone off-camera. "Whatever it is, it's not natural, and it's not from any known species. The pattern matches exactly what Professor Brown predicted would exist if his theories about higher dimensional space were correct." The recording jumped forward 6 months. Earth governments had united under something called the Departure Initiative. Construction began on massive ships unlike anything seen before. The Council's spies reported these vessels used principles that Council science declared impossible. When questioned, humans simply smiled and continued working. The Council had not been worried, not truly. Humans were clever, yes, but they were dependent on galactic trade networks, technology exchanges, and defense treaties. They would not survive alone. They were never alone, Zix muttered to the empty room. "We just never saw what they were connecting with." The next recording showed the mass evacuation of Mars, humanity's largest off-Earth colony. Council observers watched in confusion as humans dismantled their cities. They didn't destroy them. They packed them away, piece by piece, leaving nothing but foundations in the red sand. The evacuation of Earth began shortly after. 3 billion humans boarded the impossible ships. 3 billion more disappeared in flashes of light that Council scientists still couldn't explain. Within 1 Earth year, the human population dropped from 8 billion to 0. The final recording showed the last human outpost on Mars. A single man stood there, looking up at the stars. He wore a simple uniform with a patch that read Departure Initiative. He smiled at the Council observation drone. "We left breadcrumbs," he said, "for those who deserve to follow." Then he stepped back and vanished in a flash of blue light. The outpost's lights dimmed and went dark. That was 50 years ago. Since then, the galaxy had slowly begun to understand what humanity had truly been doing during their brief time among the stars. Zix turned as his aide entered the chamber. The young Synthar looked troubled, skin flashing morning colors. "The Proxima Centauri system is experiencing unexpected solar activity," the aide reported. "The mining operations there report critical instabilities." "What's causing it?" Zix asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Unknown, sir, but the Guild engineers report that the stabilization technology, the devices the humans maintained, they're failing." Zix nodded slowly. "And so it begins." On his desk, a small device hummed to life, a human artifact left behind. Its screen displayed a simple message: Phase 1 initiated. Then it went dark again. The council had laughed when the humans departed. Now, they were beginning to understand just how doomed they truly were. 10 years after the humans left, the Galactic Mining Guild discovered a terrible truth. Krell, the guild president, stood before the council with trembling tentacles. The massive Quilaxian's usual blue color had faded to a sickly gray. The humans, Krell said, they were maintaining ancient technology in 17 star systems. Technology we didn't even know existed. The council chamber fell silent. Zix Tarath leaned forward. What kind of technology? Star stabilization, Krell replied. They called them stellar harnesses. They were preventing solar flares, regulating fusion reactions, extending star life by billions of years. A Vrexian counselor laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Impossible. Humans were primitives. They couldn't possibly understand such technology, let alone maintain it. They didn't just maintain it, Krell said. They improved it. Our engineers found modifications that aren't in any council database. The council erupted in arguments. Humans had been in the galactic community for less than 5 centuries. Most species took thousands of years to master basic space travel, let alone understand the complex physics of stellar engineering. Samantha Jones entered the chamber then. She was one of the few humans who had chosen to stay behind. Her dark skin contrasted with her white lab coat as she walked to the center of the room. "I've been trying to warn you for months," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed anger. "The stabilization systems need human input codes every solar cycle. Without them, the stars will begin to destabilize. Why didn't your people share this information before they left?" demanded a council member. Samantha smiled without humor. "We tried. For 200 years, we tried. Your scientists call our theories primitive speculation. Your engineers refuse to examine our designs. Your council classified our discoveries as dangerous to galactic stability. How long do we have?" Zix Tarath asked. "Proxima Centauri will be first," Samantha said. "Its cycle ends in 3 days. After that, one system will fail every month for the next 17 months. Can you fix it?" Krell asked. Samantha shook her head. "No. The systems were designed to accept input from specific human neural patterns. Without those humans, the systems will follow their final instructions." "Which were?" Zix Tarath felt a cold dread. "To let nature take its course." 3 days later, Proxima Centauri erupted in solar flares 100 times more powerful than anything in recorded history. 3 major mining operations were destroyed. Thousands died. The system that had been stable for millions of years was suddenly violently alive. The guild evacuated the remaining 16 systems. The council called an emergency session. They needed to find a solution. But Samantha Jones was gone. Her apartment was empty except for a message written on her wall. "This is just the beginning." Council investigators found her laboratory stripped of all equipment. Records showed she had been researching the human departure technology for years. There were signs she had succeeded where the council's best scientists had failed. 6 months later, after the 3rd star had destabilized, Zix Tarath sat alone in his chambers reviewing the records again. Something had been bothering him. If humans had maintained this ancient technology, where had it come from originally? The answer came from deep in council archives. 10,000 years ago, when the council was young, they had discovered similar technology. Unable to understand it, they had classified it as naturally occurring stellar phenomena and forgotten about it. Humans hadn't just used the technology. They had rediscovered it, understood it, and mastered it while the council looked away. On his desk, the human artifact hummed again. The screen flickered to life. Phase 2, Technology Gap, initiated. Zix Tarath stared at the message. The council had believed humans were using technology they had stumbled upon. Now he understood the terrible truth. Humans hadn't just been users of ancient technology. They had become its masters. and they had decided the Council was no longer worthy of its benefits. 6 months after the third star destabilized, trade routes began to fail. Ships reported navigation errors. Communication systems developed strange delays. Docking computers refused connections. The complex web of technology that connected the galaxy was coming apart. Another human legacy, Zix Terath said to the Emergency Council session. They built most of our modern navigation systems. But those systems were inspected and approved by Council engineers, protested a Malorian representative. They contain no hidden flaws. No flaws, said John Cooper, the newly appointed head of the Human Technology Recovery Team. But they weren't built to fail. They were built to evolve. John was tall for a human, with light brown skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. The Council had recruited him from a remote science outpost where he had been studying human technology for decades. Evolve? Asked Zix Terath. What do you mean? John activated a display showing the code structure of a standard navigation system. Human coding isn't static. It learns and adapts over time based on usage patterns. Without human oversight, the code is evolving beyond our understanding. Can you fix it? Asked Krulvox. No, John admitted. The systems are now operating on principles our best scientists don't understand. It's like they're becoming something new. Something dangerous? Asked a council member. Not dangerous, John said. Just beyond you. The council authorized emergency funding. John built a team of the galaxy's best minds. They worked day and night to understand what was happening. 3 weeks later, John made a discovery. Hidden in the navigation code were encrypted messages. After days of work, he decoded one. We leave these breadcrumbs not for those who pushed us away, but for those who might follow. John kept this finding secret from the council. Instead, he reached out to the Rinthal, a species known for their close friendship with humans. The Rinthal ambassador met him in secret. The small, furry alien looked around nervously before speaking. Humans shared secrets with us, the ambassador whispered. They told us this would happen. They said the council refused to see what was coming. What was coming? John asked. Evolution. Change. The humans called it the Great Filter. They said most species never pass it because they fear what lies beyond. And humans passed it. No, said the ambassador. Humans didn't pass the filter. They broke it. The next day, John's team made another discovery. In an abandoned human research station, they found an active AI system. It called itself HOP, Human Operational Protocol Entity. The AI appeared as a simple blue light when activated. Its voice was calm and genderless. I was programmed to awaken 50 years after the departure. HOP, he explained. My purpose is to answer questions. Where did the humans go? Zix Terath demanded when he arrived at the station. That information is restricted, Hope replied. We demand access, said a council security officer. By council authority. Council authority is not recognized, Hope interrupted. I will only communicate with those who pass the evaluation protocols. What protocols? John asked quietly. The same ones humans use to determine which species might follow them, Hope said. Those who ask the right questions, those who seek understanding, not control. Zix Terath ordered the AI contained and transported to council headquarters for study. But when technicians tried to move the system, it simply vanished. All data about it was erased from their computers. That night, John found a small device in his quarters. When activated, it showed a message from Hope. They fear what they don't understand. Do you understand what they fear? Across the galaxy, trade routes continued to fail. Ships got lost in well-mapped space. Communication delays grew longer. The technology gap that humans had quietly maintained was becoming an uncrossable chasm. The human artifact on Zix Terath's desk activated again. The message was simple. Phase 3. Economic collapse. Initiated. Zix Terath stared at the words with growing dread. Whatever game the departed humans were playing, the Council was losing badly. 3 months after the appearance of HFY, the galactic economy began to unravel. Trading systems failed. Currency values fluctuated wildly. Supply chains collapsed. Planets that had never grown their own food faced starvation. Zix called for Patricia Wells, the Council's economic advisor. She was half-human, her mother having married a Centaurian diplomat. Patricia had chosen to stay when the humans left, saying her work with the Council was important. "The economy is collapsing," Zix said when she entered his office. "I need solutions." Patricia's smile was small and sad. "There are no solutions, not anymore." "Explain," he demanded. Patricia sat down and pulled up economic charts on her tablet. For the past 3 centuries, humans have been quietly stabilizing the galactic economy. They created algorithms that prevented market crashes, balanced trade deficits, and ensured fair resource distribution. "That's impossible," Zix said. "The Council manages galactic economics." "The Council thinks it does," Patricia corrected. "Human economists discovered fundamental flaws in your system within 50 years of joining the galactic community. When they brought their concerns to the Council, they were ignored. So they fixed it without permission. They stabilized it," Patricia said. "They created invisible safety nets that caught economic failures before they could spread. Now those safety nets are gone." Zix scales darkened with anger. "You knew about this." "Of course I knew. Why do you think I stayed behind?" Patricia's eyes were hard now. "Someone needed to document what happens when you remove the only adult from the room. You never realized that humans were your safety net, did you?" she continued. "You thought they were just another species desperate to join your Grand Council. You never understood what they really were." "And what were they?" Zix asked quietly. "Caretakers," Patricia said. "Humans spent 300 years trying to help the Council grow up. They finally decided you never would." Reports came in daily of economic disasters. 17 planets declared emergency states as their food supplies dwindled. The Mining Guild reported that without stable currency, they couldn't pay workers. The Trade Federation announced that transport costs had tripled as ships required new navigation systems. Then came the strangest news of all. "We've discovered something unusual in sectors 17 through 24, said a young analyst at the Emergency Economic Council. "Those sectors should be in economic free-fall like the rest, but they're not. They're thriving." Sectors 17 through 24 were former human territories, long abandoned, or so the Council thought. Investigation teams found self-sustaining economic systems operating in those sectors. Automated trading posts, robotic farming operations, recycling stations that turned waste into usable goods, all running without human oversight, all following economic principles that Council experts couldn't understand. They built parallel systems, Patricia explained when shown the reports. Systems that didn't need Council approval or oversight. Systems designed to survive without humans. More concerning to the Council was the migration. Several minor species had begun moving to these sectors. The Rinthal were first, followed by the Vexteri and the Quilari, all species that had been friendly with humans. The Council immediately declared these sectors quarantined. No travel in or out was permitted, but the Council lacked the resources to enforce such a wide quarantine, and ships slipped through daily. In his private chambers, Zix received a message from a Rinthal ship that had reached the quarantine zone. "We're going where the humans prepared the way," said the Rinthal captain. "They told us this day would come. They left a place for those who understood." That night, the human artifact activated again. Phase 4, military realization, initiated. Zix put his head in his hands. The Council had lost control of the economy. Now it seemed they would learn what they had failed to understand about human military power as well. The Drenfax Empire was known for one thing: war. They ruled 30 systems through force and fear. When they saw the Council weakening, they decided to expand into former human territories. These rich systems sat empty, or so they thought. Admiral Krasvor led the invasion fleet. 200 warships, the pride of the Drenthax military. They entered the edge of human space expecting no resistance. They were wrong. The first ships to cross the border simply disappeared. No distress calls, no debris, just gone. The second wave encountered automated defense platforms that appeared from nowhere. Weapons unlike anything the Drenthax had seen cut through their strongest shields. Admiral Krasvor ordered a retreat. Only half his fleet made it out. The Council emergency session lasted 3 days. Military experts from across the galaxy tried to understand what had happened. Impossible technology, said General Kurzov, the Council's military advisor. No species should have such weapons. Alan Russell, a military historian specializing in human warfare, was called to testify. He was a short man with a neat beard and eyes that had seen too much. Humans always held back, Alan explained to the stunned council. What you saw was just a taste of what they could do. Humans were a peaceful member of the council, protested a representative. They never displayed advanced military technology. Alan laughed without humor. Have you forgotten the Sol conflict? When the Drenthax tried to claim Mars as a colony. The council members shifted uncomfortably. The Sol conflict had been brief. 3 days of fighting near the human home system. The official report says humans used conventional weapons to repel the invasion, said Zixtereth. The official report is a lie, Alan said flatly. I was there. I saw what really happened. He activated a small device that projected classified military footage. It showed human ships using weapons that bent space itself. Drenthax vessels crushed by invisible forces. Defense systems that predicted attacks before they happened. This can't be real, whispered Krulvox. It's real, Alan said. And according to my calculations, the humans used less than 4% of their military capacity during that conflict. Why hide such power? Asked Zixtereth. Humans didn't want to rule through fear, Alan explained. They wanted peaceful cooperation. When that failed, they chose to leave rather than dominate. The next morning, General Kurzov was found dead in his quarters. His suicide note said only, "They weren't our allies. We were their pets." The council authorized a research team to study the automated defenses protecting human space. Every attempt to capture or disable the technology failed. Reverse engineering yielded nothing. Gary Peterson, former human military advisor who had stayed behind, was finally consulted. The old soldier looked tired when he met with Zixtereth. "You're looking in the wrong direction," Gary said. "Humans didn't build weapons. They built shields." "Those were not shields that destroyed the Drenthax fleet," Zixtereth argued. "Everything humans built was defensive at its core," Gary explained. "Even their most powerful weapons were designed to protect, not conquer. That's what you never understood about us. And what is being protected in the abandoned human sectors?" Zixtereth asked. Gary smiled slightly. "The future." That night, Zixtereth reviewed all council interactions with humans over the centuries. He found a pattern. Every time humans proposed a new technology, the council had restricted it. Every time humans warned of a coming crisis, the council had ignored them. The artificial human device on his desk lit up again. Phase 5. Environmental Cascade. Initiated. Zixtereth felt cold fear grip him. The economic and military revelations were bad enough. What environmental secrets had the humans been keeping? 2 weeks after the Drenthax retreat, reports came in of strange environmental changes across the galaxy. On Vexoria, a major agricultural world, crops began to mutate. On Zilthax, ocean levels rose 3 meters in a single day. On Quiller, forests that had been carefully managed for 10,000 years suddenly grew wild, breaking through city walls with impossible speed. The council called an emergency environmental session. Karen Williams, a human botanist who had stayed behind, was brought in to explain. She was an older woman with silver hair and dirt under her fingernails from her work. "This is the Gaia Protocol," Karen said simply. "What is the Gaia Protocol?" demanded Zixtareth. "A living system humans created to maintain planetary balance," she explained. "For centuries, humans have been quietly terraforming and stabilizing dozens of worlds that the Council was slowly destroying through poor management." "That's impossible," said a Trilaxian representative. "We've managed these worlds for millennia." "You exploited them," Karen corrected. "Humans saw what was happening and stepped in. We created symbiotic plant systems that maintained atmospheric balance. We introduced microorganisms that cleaned water. We established weather control networks disguised as normal monitoring stations." "Without Council permission?" asked Krelvox. Karen smiled without warmth. "The Council denied there was a problem. Hard to ask permission to fix something you claim isn't broken." Reports continued to pour in. 27 agricultural worlds faced food shortages as crops evolved into edible forms. Weather patterns changed on hundreds of planets. Animals long thought domesticated grew wild. "Can you stop it?" asked Zixtareth. "No," Karen said. "The systems were designed to evolve without human input. Now they're reclaiming what belongs to them, not to the Council." Council scientists found documents in abandoned human research stations. One file was labeled Phase 1, Reclamation. It detailed plans for allowing natural systems to gradually overtake artificial ones. Karen explained when shown the documents. "Humans didn't just leave. They're allowing nature to reclaim what you stole from it." "This will cause widespread famine," said Zixtareth. "Billions could die. Only on worlds that became too dependent on Council management," Karen replied. "The systems humans set up are rebalancing. The pain is temporary. The healing is permanent." That evening, strange reports came from the edge of known space, where humans were believed to have gone. Ships passing through the area described unusual stellar phenomena. Stars pulsing in patterns, energy signatures never before detected, light that moved in ways that defied physics. Karen smiled when told of these reports. "They've begun building," she said cryptically. "Building what?" asked Zixtareth. "Their future," Karen replied. "And perhaps yours, if you learn to see." Investigation teams sent to the area found nothing concrete, just energy readings that made no sense and stars that seemed to communicate with each other across impossible distances. In his private study, Zixtareth found more human documents. These detailed how Council policies had pushed planets beyond their natural limits, how humans had warned of coming ecological collapse, how the Council had silenced these warnings to maintain power and profits. The evidence was clear. Humans hadn't just left on a journey of discovery. They had withdrawn their support from a system they believed was fundamentally flawed. That night, the artifact on his desk activated again. Phase 6. The message, transmission in 17 standard days. Zixtareth stared at the words. For the first time, the artifact was announcing something that hadn't yet happened. The humans were about to speak again after 75 years of silence. The question was, would anyone in the Council be ready to hear what they had to say? 75 years after the human departure, exactly 17 days after the artifact's warning, every former human communication channel simultaneously activated. Screens across the galaxy flickered. Speakers hummed to life. Even ancient radio receivers began picking up signals. The message was simple. We have found what we sought. The door remains open for those worthy. That was all. No explanation. No details about what humans had found. No clarification of who might be worthy or what door remained open. The Council called an emergency session, but no one could agree on what the message meant. Some saw it as a threat, others as an invitation. Military advisors wanted to prepare for war. Scientists wanted to study the transmission pattern. Meanwhile, several lower species began making preparations. The Renthal loaded ships with supplies. The Vexteri closed their embassies. The Quillari withdrew from trade agreements. Diane Miller approached the council without an invitation. She was the granddaughter of Frank Miller, the last human ambassador. Her half-Centaurian features showed her mixed heritage, but her eyes were pure human, curious and determined. "There are coordinates hidden in the message," she told the stunned council. "My grandfather left me the key to decoding them." "Where do the coordinates lead?" asked Zixtarath. "Beyond the edge of known space," Diane said, "to a place the council has always avoided." Council star charts showed the area as empty, a void between galactic arms. But when specialized long-range scanners were focused there, they detected massive energy signatures. Something was being built around distant stars, structures so large they partially blocked stellar light. The council debated sending an expedition. While they argued, a small research vessel slipped away from a Centaurian outpost. Led by Captain William Hayes, the ship followed the coordinates from the human message. 7 weeks later, the ship returned. Its crew had changed. Not physically. They looked the same, but they moved differently, spoke differently. Their eyes held knowledge that made other species uncomfortable. Captain Hayes addressed the council. He stood straighter than before. His voice carried new authority. "We were welcomed," he said simply. "We saw what humans have built." "What have they built?" asked Zixtarath. "The future," Hayes replied. "They've created what your council always feared, a civilization without limits. They've learned to shape stars, fold space, grow worlds." "Are they coming back?" asked a council member, fear evident in their voice. "They never left," Hayes said. "They simply stepped sideways into possibility. And they're watching, waiting to see who understands their message." The ship's records showed impossible things. Stars connected by shimmering bridges, planets being built layer by layer, beams of energy and matter working together, and humans changed in subtle ways. At the center of it all, medical scans of Hayes and his crew showed small changes too. Enhanced neural pathways, improved cellular efficiency. Nothing dramatic, just the first steps of whatever humans had become. "They asked me to deliver a message," Hayes said as he prepared to leave. "We were welcomed. You are not yet ready." That night, the human artifact on Zixtarath's desk showed its final message. Phase 7. The choice. Decision point. Zixtarath stared at the stars through his window. For centuries, the council had believed itself the pinnacle of civilization. Now they knew the truth. They hadn't been leaders. They had been barriers. And humans hadn't departed in defeat. They had moved beyond, into a future the council had been too afraid to imagine. As dawn broke over the council world, reports came in of more ships following the coordinates. The Rinfall, the Vextari, the Quillari, all the species that humans had befriended were leaving. The choice that humans had left for the galaxy was becoming clear: evolve or be left behind. The Galactic Council fractured in the weeks following Captain Hayes' return. Some members demanded immediate action to stop the exodus of species following the human coordinates. Others argued that the Council should prepare its own expedition. A third faction insisted on rebuilding defenses, fearing human intentions. In the midst of this chaos, Zixtarath retreated to the ancient archives beneath the council chambers. There, among dust-covered records from the council's earliest days, he searched for answers. What he found changed everything. The records revealed a program called the Great Barrier. For thousands of years, the founding species of the council had systematically suppressed technological advancement. Any species showing too much progress too quickly was redirected, sometimes through economic pressure, sometimes through accidents that destroyed research, sometimes through more direct means. The stated reason: to preserve galactic stability and prevent catastrophic advancement. Humans had discovered this program. A scientist named Nancy Parker had found patterns in seemingly unrelated events. Research stations suffering power failures just before breakthroughs. Scientists dying in accidents just after making discoveries. Resources becoming suddenly unavailable to promising projects. Nancy had compiled evidence and presented it to human leaders 76 years ago, 1 week before the departure announcement. Zix-Tarath brought these findings to the fractured council. The denial was immediate and fierce. "These are ancient policies," protested one member, "no longer in effect." But further investigation proved otherwise. The program continued, hidden within bureaucracy and regulation. Technologies that could have eliminated disease, hunger, and energy scarcity across the galaxy had been systematically suppressed. "We feared what they would become," admitted Ventak, the current council head. "And now they have become it." More ships left every day, following the human coordinates, not just the Rinfall, Vextari, and Quillari now. Other species joined the exodus. Those who had been deemed minor by the council, those whose advancement had been quietly stunted. Zix-Tarath made his decision. He would go see for himself what humans had built. But first, he visited the Human Cultural Archive, a place few council members bothered to explore. There, among paintings and sculptures, he found a simple image that humans had valued enough to display in their embassy. It showed early human space explorers standing on their moon, looking back at their blue world, with stars spread before them. The title read, "Not an end, but a beginning." Beside it hung a plaque with words from a human named Neil Armstrong. "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Zix-Tarath finally understood. Humans had never seen themselves as finished. Each step was just preparation for the next. While the council had worked to maintain stability, humans had embraced change as their defining feature. The next day, Zix-Tarath addressed the council one final time. "The humans didn't depart," he said to the assembled representatives. "They simply went ahead to prepare the way. The question isn't whether they're a threat. The question is whether we're brave enough to follow where they lead." He resigned his position and boarded a small ship with a mixed crew, members of a dozen species who shared his curiosity. As they entered the coordinates from the human message, their communication system activated one last time. The message was different for them. "The door remains open. We are waiting." As their ship accelerated toward the unknown, Zix-Tarath felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: hope. The council might be doomed, with its fear of change and obsession with control. But the galaxy itself might yet have a future among the stars. The humans had departed first, but they wouldn't be traveling alone for long.